Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning and welcome to the 2020 National Heroes Day celebrations. My name is Gloria McFeel Nixon, Chief Officer for the Portfolio of the Civil Service, and it is my pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies for today's proceedings. This year's celebration honors the pioneers of the Cayman Islands' first written constitution, celebrates the Phenomenal Four, the first women to stand for general election, and commemorates the unveiling of the bust of 5 of our existing national heroes, who will now take their place alongside our first national hero here in Hero Square. So ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a great day because we will celebrate today all things Cayman, through song, dance, historical artifacts, and the men and women whose contributions have been pivotal to the development of these islands and the betterment of our people. Immediately following the ceremony, we will invite you to participate in Caymanian cuisine, which will be available alongside the library in Celebration Village. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce the arrival of the platform party. Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Samuel Rose. Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Alva Saku. Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Bernie Bush. MLA, Mr. Christopher Saunders. MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. MLA, Mr. Ezard Miller. Counselor for Environment and Housing, Captain Eugene Ebanks. Counselor for Education, Youth, Finance, and Economic Development, Ms. Barbara Conley. Counselor for Tourism, Transport, and Sports, Mr. David White. Please also join me in welcoming the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Arden McLean. Deputy Governor, the Honorable Franz Manderson. Chief Justice, the Honorable Anthony Smelly. Deputy Premier and Minister for District Administration, Tourism, and Transport, the Honorable Moses Kirkconnell. Minister for Finance and Economic Development, the Honorable Roy McTaggart. Minister for Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour. His Excellency the Governor and the Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, will be arriving shortly to take their salutes. Please remain seated for the arrival of the parade.
And welcome to our CIG-TV live coverage this morning of National Heroes Day 2020.
Also joining us will be the Speaker of the House, the Honorable Makiba Bush.
From Radio Cayman.
And I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman. Good morning and thank you so much for joining us for this live broadcast brought to you by Cayman Islands Government Television and Radio Cayman.
Yes, well, ladies, we're here, and we're here to celebrate the vestrymen who were involved in the first written constitution of the Cayman Islands, as well as what we're now dubbing the Phenomenal Four, the first women elected to Parliament here in the Cayman Islands.
And it's 2020. Happy New
Just
Year.
a reminder
A new year and a new
to
decade,
visit
and
the
once again, another
Georgetown
opportunity
Library
to
after today's
celebrate and
ceremony,
embrace
as
our
there is
culture,
a
our
special
history, and our
commemorative
heritage, and the
Constitution-themed
wonderful people
display,
that make our
which has
islands
been
just
assembled by Celebrate Cayman team
Yes.
and the
And
Bodytown
I believe
Heritage
back
Committee.
in
The display
I
will
think
be
1959
available for
election,
viewing
there was 4
immediately
women
following
who
today's
stood-
ceremony.
were nominated to
Also,
stand for
for
election,
those who are
and
not
they were Miss
here
Bertle
in
Jackson
person
for
today,
West
we
Bay,
have many
Miss
following
Ethel
us
Cook
as
Bond for
today's
Georgetown,
celebration is
and
being
Miss
aired
Francine Jackson
on
and Miss Laura
CIG
Wattler,
channel
both for
on
Bond
Logic,
Town.
Flow,
Yes,
and
but the
C3
first woman to ever
networks.
actually be
Streaming
elected
live
to
on
Parliament
CIG
was
TV
Miss
YouTube
Mary
channel and broadcast
Evelyn
on
62?
Radio
Miss
Cayman
Mary
Evelyn Woodward,
yes,
89.9
in
FM.
1962, I believe it was, yeah. But 1959 was also a year when women in the Cayman Islands actually got the right to vote.
Right.
So it was a very important year for women here in the Cayman Islands that year.
And I believe
Minister
back
for
in
Commerce,
2009, we
Planning,
would
and
remember a
Infrastructure,
monument
the Honorable Gypsy.
named Aspiration.
Yes.
Was mounted here, right here in Hero Square.
Yes.
To celebrate women contribution to the development and history of the Cayman Islands.
Once again, it is the 2020 celebration right here in Hero Square, Georgetown, Grand Cayman. If you are a resident, if you're visiting, thank you so much again for joining us. We are celebrating and honoring those that pioneered the establishment of our first written constitution. And we just thank you so much for tuning in. It is a beautiful day here in Georgetown.
It is. Could use a little bit more wind, but we're still grateful because it is sunny. It's not cold. So yeah, we're happy to be here with you this morning in TV and radio land.
And in the background, we can hear the sounds of the various contingents that will be joining us here at Hero Square.
Yes.
Yes, this is the we had the official arrivals, and now we are hearing the parade. And that voice that you're hearing is none other than Ms. Gloria McField, who will be our Master of Ceremonies for the 2020 celebration.
Yes, I think in just a few seconds we're actually going to go to the live coverage where our cameras are going to pick up the sounds of the contingents made up and led by the RCIPS, the Fire Service, the Prisons Service, the Scouts, Girls Brigade, and so on and so forth.
Yes, and once again, this is National Heroes Day. It's an annual patriotic event that serves to recognize outstanding citizens for service to the country. So I need you guys to stay tuned because this is going to be a beautiful ceremony, a monumental ceremony. And I think that what's very important is that there are so many highlights for this celebration that you really don't want to miss a beat at all. So
Stay with us.
stay with us.
I'm Donna Bush, and joining me this morning I have Miss Susan Watson and Miss Shanda Gallego, both from Radio Cayman.
we have just seen the official parade and traditional parade just coming into Hero Square, including some contingents. Susan, I don't know if you can provide a little bit of who we're seeing in the Hero Square right now.
Yeah, some of the various contingents participating as the Royal Cayman Islands Police Band, the detachment of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, also the detachment of the Cayman Islands Fire Service, and the detachment of Her Majesty Cayman Islands Prison Service, detachment of the Girls Brigade Cayman Islands, and also the Scouts and Cub Scouts, and the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps, and a detachment of the Cayman Islands Conference Pathfinders, I believe, is also part of the parade.
Parade, yes.
You know, these groups are so important, ladies, because every year they actually look forward to events like this. National Heroes Day, we got the Queen's birthday, any major event that they can take part in, because they take the time to get dressed up, to look professional, to practice and rehearse, just to be here on this special day for everyone to see what they've been doing.
Yes, and early Saturday morning, I think they were here practicing, rehearsing, and what was really interesting was seeing the young people come out, and every year they're eager to put on their uniform and their best and show off with national pride their country. So I think that is always interesting to see, and to hear the music, the band. I think that's also that nice touch.
Yeah, the
to-
music
to
being
the
provided by
ceremony.
the Royal Cayman Islands Police Band. And always a sight to see is the children, the young children, primary school children, and secondary, I believe,
Yeah.
just waving the Caymanian flags a little later on in the ceremony.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to note here, though, that there's so much work that goes into this type of event that's led by the Protocol Office every year. This year, the Celebrate Cayman team has partnered with them as they, have been heavily involved in how our crest came about, as well as how our first written constitution came about. And then Melanie Sims from the Protocol Office, she brings on, a huge team of volunteers, including kids from the secondary and primary schools, to hand out, maybe posters or the programs, or just to have people seated. So this would not be possible without those two teams, in particular the Protocol team and a host of volunteers.
Yes, and of course the Celebrate Cayman Committee, and then we also have the Ministry of Culture
Yes.
and the Office of the Premier also being a part of the organization of this ceremony. You mentioned 2019 was actually a very beautiful, also historic celebration in that we were looking at the creation of the coat of arms, and so
Yes.
many people were recognized, and organizations that have been here for 50 plus years. 2020 is looking at the vestrymen and justices of the peace who understood the importance of the Cayman Islands being protected by a written constitution. I think that is the thing that just put the stamp on who we are as the Cayman Islands, and so
Yes.
that's something that we are really looking forward to celebrate here today.
Yes, absolutely.
And just to give a little historical background on National Heroes Day, I believe in 1993 the Legislative Assembly passed the National Heroes Law, and providing for the declaration of persons who have rendered exceptional service as national heroes. Cayman currently has 9 national heroes, and the first national hero was the Honorable James Manoa Bawden, and he was named in 1994.
Yes.
And in 1996, the second hero, Honorable Ms. Sybil Ione McLaughlin, and also other national heroes. The Honorable Thomas William Farrington, CBE JP, Honorable Sybil Joyce Hilton, MBE, Honorable Orman L. Panton, OBE, and Honorable Desmond V. Watler, CBE, also the Honorable Mary Evelyn Wood, Certificate Honoree,
Yeah.
and William Warren Connolly, OBE, and the Doctor, the Honorable Roy Edison McTaggart.
Yes, 9 so far. Of course, the bus for 5 others will be unveiled today. It's going to be a great surprise. If you're not here at Hero Square, I wish I could give you a view of exactly what the new monument that entails, that encompasses those bus actually looks like.
Yes.
Such a beautiful sight.
We are here in Hero Square, Georgetown, live and direct to give you all that's happening today. This is a live broadcast with Radio Cayman and CIG TV, and what's happening right now is the traditional parade, and we're having now some of the going into the inspection, I believe, of the parade.
Yes.
And as you've heard, we're waiting on the Premier, Honorable Alda McLaughlin, to arrive.
Yes, so we're going to go live, continue our live coverage here with what's happening on the stage as we celebrate National Heroes Day 2020 here in Hero Square, Georgetown. Yes, and suddenly the audience members, there's a lot of people here from the public. We see a lot of folks from the two cruise ships that are in town today are here listening and watching. This must be a treat for them to visit the Cayman Islands and actually be a part of National Heroes Day celebrations here in downtown Georgetown. Well, they're in for a treat. And for a history lesson in the Cayman Islands, on the Cayman Islands, if they ask questions this morning as to what's happening here. Also, we have the steel band. I don't know if
Triple C.
Yeah, the Triple C steel band. They've been playing music all morning. They have been amazing. Very talented group of kids.
And I know for us Caymanian people, we always like to listen and see how many people here first. There is enough people, enough chairs for us. There is still time to come on out to be a part of this event. And right now we're seeing the arrival of Premier Honorable Alden McLaughlin and his wife.
All right, we'll continue our coverage in just a minute.
The Honorable Alden McLaughlin and Mrs. Kim McLaughlin.
Shoulder ups. General salute. Present. Up. Shoulder. Up. Order. Arms. Standard. Easy. Stand easy.
Please remain standing for the arrival of His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper.
Hey! We're in. Stand. Shoulder. Up.
And now we see the arrival
His
of
Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper.
His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, arriving to take up his position at the platform.
And I believe that's it for the official arrivals of the ministers and ministry officials for this morning's ceremony here in Hero Square, Georgetown. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there were a host of visitors just coming in from waterfront area, and I thought that was really nice because they're just interested in what's happening here, which is the perfect location.
Yes, it is.
To showcase and show off our culture and our heritage and the celebration.
Absolutely.
Shoulder. Up. Order. Your Excellency, the parade is formed up and fitted to your inspection cell.
Susan?
Yes, and we can see His Excellency the Governor as he inspects the various participants of the parade. He's inspecting the Cubs, I believe, and moving on to the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service.
The Guard of Honor is what he's inspection that he's doing, followed by his one of his deputy commissioners of police, Mr. Anthony Ennis there, and two of the officers, Mr. Courtney Miles, as well as Mr. Ian Yearwood. So, you know, these gentlemen, it's a time for them to get dressed up in their regalia, and they look so amazing, I have to say.
In a couple of occasions, His Excellency Governor Martin Roper has always said that this is the part that he looks forward to, just being able to see how clean presented we are as a contingent of officers and other organizations in the Cayman Islands. He says he looks forward to these types of events each and every time because it allows him, it brings him into perspective as to how much pride we have for ourselves and as a country. And so he has a beautiful smile. He's enjoying this moment. Also alongside with Inspector Courtney Miles. And this is a tradition for in this parade here they inspect the officers and the contingents.
I see it appears it's quite hot out there. We're so grateful to be under the tent this morning, aren't we, ladies?
Yes.
Where it's a bit cooler here this morning for us. But yeah, certainly they're feeling the heat out there, but all for a very, very, very good cause as we celebrate here in 2020 our national heroes, our vestrymen who were involved in our first written constitution and the Phenomenal Four, those four women who were first nominated to Parliament.
And once again,
for Parliament.
yes, that's right. And once again, the contingents made up of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, the Cayman Islands Fire Service, Her Majesty's Prison Service, Cadet Corps, Girls Brigade, Scouts, and the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders.
Shoulder, arms. Order, arms.
His Excellency the Governor will now make his way to the stage where he will present the proclamation to the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, the Honorable W. McKeeva Bush. There will be the blowing of the conch shell, symbolizing welcomed news, just before the Honorable Speaker will then issue the proclamation to formally open National Heroes Day 2020. Please remain standing.
Easy.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, all citizens, residents, and visitors to these Cayman Islands. Whereas, on the 27th day of January 2003, in the year of our quincentennial celebrations, this plot upon which we are presently met was proclaimed as Heroes Square, a sacred place of honor and esteem, dedicated to the endeavors, sacrifices, contributions, and achievements of our Caymanian people. And whereas the Wall of Honor and the statue and monument and cultural icons within this hallowed square all stand in remembrance of and in tribute to those who helped to build these beloved Cayman Islands. Now, therefore, we, the government and people of the Cayman Islands, give notice once again of our determination today and on National Heroes Day in every year hereafter to acknowledge with gratitude and pride the endeavors of our people to pay tribute and respect to their sacrifices in a way that will forever be impressed upon our hearts and our country as we continue to uphold our values and steadfast dedication to the pioneers of our first written constitution, commemorate the first 4 women who ran for public office, and honor our heroes' contributions and achievements. And in furtherance thereof, we hereby give notice on this day, the 27th of January 2020, and every occasion of the celebration of National Heroes Day hereafter, that recognition by way of commendation, an award, and honors, and the laying of flowers may be conferred on not only honored, but ordinary citizens as shall be deemed deserving thereof. Proclaimed in the presence of all gathered here for this purpose at Heroes Square in Georgetown, Grand Cayman, this 27th day of January in the year of our Lord 2020, in the 68th year of the reign of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Mr. Deal. The blowing of the conch shell is a Cayman Islands tradition dating back to when our society was almost exclusively fed by what we caught at sea and grew in our grounds. The Paint Queen conch was the shell of choice for this nautical instrument. The sound alerted the community that our fishermen had returned home safely with a bounty of fish. This sound evoked a sense of relief for many families, as it meant that the men had returned safely to shore. Conch shell blowing was done primarily by men, but some local women were very proficient in the art as well. What a triumphant start to the day. I now invite you to continue standing at attention for the breaking of the Union flag Cayman flag and Celebrate Cayman flag, followed by the national anthem, God Save the Queen, which will be led by Miss Jamie Ebanks.
Parade! Parade, cut! Shoulder up! Royal salute! Reset! Up!
God save our gracious Queen. Long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Shoulder up! Order up! Stand dead, easy. Stand easy.
Thank you, Miss Jamie Ebanks. Please remain standing as I invite Brother Robert Ebanks to offer a word of prayer on behalf of our beloved Cayman Islands.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, the one in whom we live and move and have our being, we are grateful to Thee this morning for this privilege of gathering together, most of all to give Thee thanks for Thy goodness and mercies and blessings upon these islands. We thank Thee for the royal family back in England. We thank Thee for each one that is here. We thank Thee for our governor. Oh God, may Thou bless him here in his sojourn. May we make it a comfortable place for him to live and enjoy his stay here. We thank Thee for all the members of the Legislative Assembly, those that have labored for Thee. We thank Thee, Father, for those that have gone on before that we have come to pay tribute to. Many of them we knew personally. They've gone to their reward. Help that each one this day will so live that they will be able to have a good reward for their labors and of love in our island. God, we thank Thee that Thou hast blessed this island with freedom of worshiping Thee and living for Thee. Now we pray Thy blessings upon each one, Father. Help us as we go on from day to day, that we leave footprints in the sand for the people of our island, our young people, to come up and follow those footsteps to the glory of Thy great name. We pray in and through the mighty name of Jesus. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Brother Robert. Everyone, please remain standing as the parade marches off.
Parade! Parade, set! Close order, march! Shoulder up! Move to the right in files. Right, turn!
right, and welcome back to our live coverage of National Heroes Day in Hero Square in Georgetown this morning. What a beautiful day here it is here in the Cayman Islands. And I have these two beautiful young ladies joining me this morning with our live coverage simultaneously with Radio Cayman.
So glad to be here with you, Ms. Donna. This is obviously a very unique broadcast.
It is.
We are truly just grateful to be here to celebrate another National Heroes Day celebration, and it is a beautiful day. The sun is out. There's a little cool breeze. Everyone is wearing their Sunday best, as they would call it.
Yes.
And we are here to celebrate and to also, recognize the individuals in our country and our society that have truly pioneered the establishment of our first written constitution. That is the focus for the 2020 celebration. And Susan, for our radio listeners, what is it that they can sort of understand and experience right now, our radio listeners?
Well, what's happening right now is the parade will march off. The parade will march off. We can see the Royal Cayman Islands Police Band, followed by the Cayman Islands Fire Service, and then that will be followed by Her Majesty Prison Service. It is a hot day, as you said. And I love the young ladies part.
Yeah. That's the Cayman Islands Girls Brigade making their way as well now out of Hero Square. They've been standing for quite a long time, and so we give them this opportunity to just rest, and they will join us at the end of the ceremony. But we recognize that it's such a tiring exercise, this particular moment, so we give them a break at this time. And so, they look so beautiful, so wonderful. That's the Scouts.
We've got the Scouts, we've got the Cadet Corps,
Yes.
We've got the Girls Brigade. It was
Prison
so
Service.
warm earlier that one of the little girls from the Girls Brigade actually, I guess, passed out because it was so hot. So they quickly got her seated, and she's fine now. She's joined her group again. But it's such a beautiful sight to see. But for radio listeners, hopefully you can hear the sounds of the band. I know you can. And just imagine in your mind what it looks like if you've never attended one of these beautiful events.
And so that is now the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders with their flag making their way out and exiting Hero Square, Georgetown. We want to remind you that you are live here in Hero Square with us for the 2020 National Heroes Day celebrations, and there is still time to come on out and be a part of this ceremony. We just also want to remind you that there are some roads that are closed.
Yes.
So just in case you want to find out how close you can get, well, you've got the top of 4th Street at the junction of 4th Street and North Church Street, the bottom of 4th Street by the clock tower, Edward Street at the junction of Edward Street and Main Street. I'm going a little fast. The end of Edward Street at the junction of Edward Street and Cardinal Avenue. Those roads are closed, so you still you have a little bit of that time to come on out.
Yes. All right. So we're going to continue with the event here this morning. Up next, as you'll hear our MC, Mrs. Gloria McField Nixon, say, is the welcome from Mr. Alfonso Wright, who is the executive chairperson from Celebrate Cayman.
The Honorable Samuel Bulgin, Councilor Austin Harris, and MLA Mr. Anthony Eden. We will now witness a procession of school children proudly displaying the Cayman Islands flags in their youthful exuberance. Today, scores of children from preschools, primary, and high schools in the Cayman Islands have come together to commemorate our heroes. Between our youthful flag bearers and today's honorees, our participants span more than 8 decades of Caymanians. We welcome our school children and their flags.
Yes, it's a sight to see the school children with their flags waving. This is the future of the Cayman Islands we're looking at right now. Some of them probably 6 years old, 7 years old and up.
And Susan, like you said, this is the future of the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
And it is a sight to see how they're so dressed and just waving the
Right.
Cayman Islands national flag with honor, with pride. And these are school children from across the Cayman Islands
Right.
that you're seeing represented.
And they're absolutely adorable. And I have to say this. I have visited 11 other Caribbean countries, and I have to tell you, the Cayman Islands has the most beautiful kids. That's very biased, but we have
Little
the
bias here.
cutest, most beautiful children. When you walk in the classrooms and you see them, they are just a melting pot of beauty and handsomeness.
And it's such a good, it's so important to invoke that sort of Caymanian pride from such a young age so that they can carry it through.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, the schools that are being represented are again from all across the Cayman Islands,
Right.
including Cayman Bride. And so that's awesome. From East End and Memorial Primary School to West Bay, John Encumber Primary School, and they're just beautiful. I can't tell you how many school children are here represented, but I know we have representation from across the Cayman Islands. So that is awesome.
And I always love to see how they're led by the students who are from the high schools and the secondary schools. You know, they lead the primary school kids, and they too have a sense of pride of leadership. They were once primary school students. I mean, it gives them a great sense of pride.
And I think, Donna, I spotted your daughter.
Yes, she was the first one out. Yes.
So right now we're hearing from Alfonso Wright,
6 years ago,
Executive Chairman of Celebrate
the
Cayman.
Legislative Assembly of Justices and Vestry enacted our first written constitution. Women were granted the right to vote, and women were able to stand for office for the very first time. 60 years ago, our people came together with vision, with purpose, and on a mission to make our country better. 60 years later, there is so much to celebrate, Cayman. Each year, we come together to celebrate our community and national heroes. And as we mark the 60th anniversary of our first written constitution, it is fitting that we reflect on our journey over the past 6 decades and recognize the people who charted the path to Cayman as we know it. Following on from our celebrations of the 60th anniversary of the Coat of Arms, Celebrate Cayman turned its focus to a calendar of activities, initiatives, events, and experiences around the Constitution anniversary. Our mission is to raise awareness about the historic and ongoing importance of this guiding document while giving the community an opportunity to come together in engaging ways. This significant anniversary started with a jam-packed week. We celebrated the Cayman Islands' relationship with the United Kingdom and Jamaica, with guest of honor, the Right Honorable Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon, Minister of State for the Commonwealth and United Nations, and the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, at a cultural breakfast attended by 400 people and aired live on Radio Cayman. There was a meeting of the Masters at an international all-star football match where players from home and abroad came together in unity through sport. One of the oldest and most historic churches, Emsley Memorial, a united church of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, came alive with songs of worship, words of wisdom on the importance of collaboration and relationships, and prayers of praise and thanksgiving for the progress and success of our islands. The building where our first written constitution was enacted was renamed Constitution Hall, ensuring that this historic place and moment in time will always be remembered. A radio roundtable discussion amongst constitutional experts gave the panel and listeners the opportunity to explore the evolution of our journey to the modern Constitution. In the subsequent months and weeks, we have continued to engage with the community particularly our students through the Tatrope Times, a special publication which educates children across the Cayman Islands about matters related to our Constitution while giving them a space to express their perspectives in creative ways too. Celebrate Cayman has again partnered with the Cayman Islands National Museum to curate an exhibit which takes a closer look at our Constitution and its history. The exhibit will be on display after today's ceremony for everyone to take in and enjoy. As always, it is our hope that everyone who lives in and visit the Cayman Islands will continue to interact with Celebrate Cayman in ways that are meaningful to them. Our mission is to educate our community, provide an opportunity to celebrate our country's history and diversity, and inspire national pride. The upcoming calendar has a range of activities to experience where we focus on women, active citizenship, community celebrations, and more. On behalf of my Celebrate Cayman team, I wish to thank Ms. Melanie Sims and her extraordinary protocol team for the opportunity to work in support of the last two National Heroes Day. A profound, gratifying experience. Thank you for joining us today for this special event on our national calendar. As we honor and celebrate our national heroes, constitutional pioneers, and the brave women who blaze the political trail, we all stand tall on the shoulders of these giants. I take great pride in welcoming you to National Heroes Day 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Wright, and the team from Celebrate Cayman for all the wonderful work you've been doing. I now invite the Minister for Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, to deliver remarks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here as we celebrate our biggest cultural event of the year. It is always such a pleasure to watch all the participants in the parade this morning. It always fills me with such a sense of national pride. I am honored to be here with each of you as we once again come together to take stock of our heritage, to celebrate those who helped make it world-renowned, and to inspire young heroes amongst us. We have so much to celebrate today. The visionary pioneers of the establishment of our first written constitution, the brave women who petitioned valiantly for women's rights, and to proudly remember our national heroes. It is always an opportune time to remind ourselves of what culture is. A culture is the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people or other social groups that make it distinctive. There are so many special distinctions of historical Caymanian culture that come to mind today, including thatching, turtling, shipbuilding, a strong church-going tradition, cookrooms, catboats, wattle and daub houses, marbles, gigs, and of course, our Cayman-kind people. When we stop to reflect, we realize that so much of our past has left no visual or written record behind, which makes the celebration of the 60th anniversary of our first written constitution so very special. Today's ceremony also serves to celebrate visionaries and stewards of our cultural institutions. As Minister of Culture, I take seriously the protection and sustainability of those things that make up our culture and heritage. This is why it was such an important initiative for me to bring the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan back to the forefront. It is my mission to work hard to continue to position us as a vibrant and dynamic country rich in heritage. I truly believe that culture is one of the greatest calling cards of all time, which makes culture sustainability one of the greatest endeavors of our time. As I look around, I see so many examples of culture proving its significance, the camaraderie it brings us, well as hope for the future. National Heroes Day is a fitting time to remind ourselves of just how great an impact our culture advocates made and continue to make on these wonderful islands. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Minister Seymour. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I now invite the Premier of the Cayman Islands, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, to deliver the keynote address.
Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Chief Justice, ministers and members of the Cabinet, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, my colleagues in the Legislative Assembly, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning. I thank you all for joining us on this National Heroes Day to remember and celebrate those 9 Caymanian heroes whom we have recognized as having made an exceptional contribution to our development, political, social, cultural, and economic. Each Heroes Day, we also take time to recognize other Caymanians who in their own way also contributed to our development and are heroes to many. Today is a very special Heroes Day. For starters, later in the program, we will unveil the sculptured busts of 5 of our national heroes, with another 3 busts to be installed next Heroes Day. These physical images will help to make real the faces and lives of our founders, and along with the statue of Mr. Jim and the other monuments here, allow today's generation and the generations which follow the opportunity to visit, to see, and to consider the contributions of our national heroes in this hallowed square dedicated to their memory. This year, we are commemorating the 60th anniversary of our first written constitution. And so today, we will also honor and celebrate those pioneers who 6 decades ago helped create that seminal document. Our Constitution is a unique, living document upon which the foundation of our modern democracy, our laws, and indeed our modern way of life is built. So it is fitting that we remember and honor those nation builders who helped secure the rights to our own modern system of governance. With the passage of time, we have lost most of those nation builders, but happily, Arlie James Miller, better known as AJ, who served in Assembly during that historic period, is still with us. Forgive me a moment of pride in noting that my grandfather, Alden McLaughlin, was also a member of the Assembly during those historic years, and indeed a member of the very first Executive Council under the 1959 Constitution. There is a great truth in the saying, to know where you're going, you need to know where you came from. So I will provide some context of the times in which those nation builders found themselves. The 1950s and 60s were a time of great change for the Cayman Islands, as well as for the other British Caribbean colonies including Jamaica, to whom we were aligned and by whom we were governed. The West Indies Federation, that was promoted by the United Kingdom after the Second World War, was eventually formed in 1958, but dissolved by 1962 as Jamaica and Trinidad opted for independence and self-determination rather than federation. Despite the trend by some colonies to seek independence, Caymanians were determined to not just be swept along in the wake of the growing nationalism of our larger neighbors, especially Jamaica. The nationalism preferred by Caymanians was a more cautious one, whereby we would preserve our own national identity and way of life while being masters of our own destiny. As a dependency of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands was very keen that our interests were being protected in any discussions regarding federation. Members of the then Legislative Assembly, Mr. Ernest Panton, Mr. Willie Farrington, and Ormond Patton, the latter two now national heroes, led by Mr. Duncan Merrin, traveled to the federation discussions in Jamaica and made it clear that Cayman would not join the federation unless we had direct representation in it. This proposal was soundly rejected by the big players. But the Caymanian representatives remained resolute, and on the 7th of April 1955, 6 assemblymen sent a petition to the United Kingdom Colonial Secretary through the UK Governor of Jamaica. They stated in part that, quote, "We wish to restate as clearly and as strongly as we can 3 main aims. First, we wish to retain the right to control entry to our islands. Secondly, we wish to retain our rights to decide what taxes should be imposed upon us. Thirdly, we wish to retain our right to maintain our established channels of trade and employment overseas," unquote. Eventually, the Jamaica government, led by Premier Norman Manley, became content to let the British governor of Jamaica resolve the Cayman Islands issue. Locally, however, opinions were bitterly divided. Some preferred obtaining increased local control over Caymanian interests and remaining with the United Kingdom, whilst others favored a break with the United Kingdom and a closer relationship with Jamaica, or within the framework of the Federation. Given the rancor, this issue was not to be resolved for several more years. But what was agreed unanimously was the need for the Cayman Islands to have a modern written constitution that would protect the interests of the Cayman Islands at a time of great uncertainty and change. And thus, it was agreed by the United Kingdom that the Cayman Islands would receive our first written constitution by a royal order in council. And so, on July 4th, 1959, with the coming into effect of the new constitution, Caymanians took the first step towards political advancement for these islands. The Constitution specifically exempted us from the control of the Jamaican legislature, and we were placed directly under the authority of the British governor of Jamaica with the ability to directly make our own laws. The Constitution also provided some radical changes to our legislature. After 127 years, the Assembly of Justices and Vestrymen were replaced by 2 new bodies, the Legislative Assembly and the Executive Council. With a modern system of government strengthened by our own Constitution, we were better able to forge our own way as a British Crown colony and to make fundamental policy decisions and to pass laws that strengthened our economic viability. A key early law was the 1960 Companies Law, on which our financial services industry was built. The government elected in 1959 understood, as had previous ones, that to encourage foreign investment and develop tourism, there was a desperate need to eradicate our mosquito problem. Those of you who were not here until after the 1980s will not appreciate what mosquitoes were really like. It was hoped that the passage of the 1960 Companies Law would significantly improve government revenue and enable the funding of a program to control the mosquito population. By 1965, with the growth of the company registration business, the government was indeed earning sufficient fees to fund a fledgling mosquito research and control unit. And as they say, the rest is history. Yet another important milestone in our development had become possible through our new constitutional arrangement. And so, in more ways than one, the adoption of the 1959 Constitution is rightly considered the seminal event which gave rise to the modern Cayman Islands as a tourism destination and international financial services center. There was one other event that occurred prior to the 1959 Constitution that helped to forge modern-day Cayman. That was the passage of the Sex Disqualification Removal Bill, which became law in December 1958. This provided for the first time for all adult Caymanians to have the right to vote and stand for election. The passage of this law took Caymanian women some 11 years, starting in 1948, and several attempts before succeeding. And so in the 1959 general elections, not only did women vote, but 4 women were on the ballot for the first time in our history. These brave, pioneering politicians were Mrs. Burdell Jackson of West Bay, Mrs. Ethel Cook Borden of Georgetown, Mrs. Francine Jackson, and Mrs. Laurel Watler, both of Bordentown. While none of these ladies was elected, their courage and effort blazed the trail for the very first woman to be elected to office in the following general election, national hero, the Honorable Mary Evelyn Wood. Today, we will honor those 4 brave political trailblazers. In the coming months, we will hold celebrations in all of our districts to honor the 358 women who signed the petition for their right to vote and stand for office. We all remember those ladies with pride, and so do I. Indeed, my grandmother Ethel was one of those courageous petitioners. The important role that women have played and continue to play in creating a modern Cayman Islands is significant. This is why, when I was Minister for Culture in 2009, the government I was a part of dedicated the monument Aspiration here in Heroes Square as part of the 2009 Heroes Day observances. Aspiration depicts 2 women, one young and one older, mounting stairs, passing and receiving the baton of opportunity, moving upwards from past to future, and is a permanent tribute to the contribution of women to the development of these Cayman Islands. I said earlier that the Constitution is a living document, and thus it has been updated from time to time. Some amendments were minor, and others, such as the 1972 and 2009 Constitution orders, were significant and brought an increasingly more modern and balanced style of governance with increased delegated authority to the locally elected government, as well as greater consultation and accountability in the running of the country. More recently, this government, with the support of the opposition, worked and agreed with the United Kingdom to make several other important amendments to the 2009 document. I again commend all colleagues on both sides of the Legislative Assembly for demonstrating wisdom, foresight, and statesmanship by unanimously supporting these important improvements that confirm that the Caymanian people, through their democratically elected representatives, have exclusive authority in respect of domestic affairs, and that the United Kingdom, its parliament or government, will not seek in the future to legislate directly or indirectly for the Cayman Islands without, at a minimum, consultation with the Cayman Islands government. I also pay tribute to His Excellency the Governor for his invaluable guidance and support in this important initiative. In securing the United Kingdom's agreement to those improvements, we are, as current legislators, doing our part to keep the Constitution alive and relevant to today's Cayman, and to better serve and protect the interests of our people. In doing so, we continue the tradition of those pioneers who have gone before and who advocated for our very first Constitution. As part of our Constitution celebrations, tomorrow the Currency Division of the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority will issue a commemorative $1 banknote in celebration of the 60th anniversary of the 1959 Constitution. These will begin circulation at local banks starting this week. Those of you here today, however, will, as a gift from the government, receive your own commemorative banknote encased in a protective sleeve as a keepsake, and to thank you for joining us today at Heroes Square. I also thank those whose hard work has made today possible. Cabinet Secretary Samuel Rose, the Protocol Office, the Celebrate Cayman Committee, led by Mr. Alfonso Wright, and all of the Men of Parade contingents, volunteers, and performing artists. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed a blessed people, highly favored by the God in whom we trust. I am almost the same age as our Constitution. And often these days, as I reflect on the Cayman I grew up in and compare it to the Cayman I live in today, I shake my head in disbelief. When I think of the hardships and privations that mine and previous generations endured and the sacrifices made to build this little nation, I sometimes cry with gratitude. The progress we have made in my lifetime can only be described as incredible. From a population of 7,000 people 60 years ago to some 70,000 today, we have come a very long way indeed. But knowing our people as I do, our strength, our resourcefulness and vision, I do believe the best is still to come. In the years ahead, the Premier who stands where I do today will not necessarily bear the name of McLaughlin, Tibbetts, Connolly, or Bush. And our national heroes will not be only Bawdens, Farringtons, Pantons, McTaggarts, or Wattlers. From its first settlement nearly 400 years ago, our country has been a land of immigrants, and still it continues. Immigration has made us one of the most successful and progressive countries in the region, and indeed the world. Despite the challenges posed by the pace of our growth and development, we remain the best place on earth to visit, to live, to raise children, and to work. We believe in God, in democracy, in the rule of law, and in the right of each person to their own opinion. Our differences serve to make us better and stronger, and there is far more that unites us than divides us. On this Heroes Day, as we honor and celebrate the efforts and achievements of those who have gone before, let us also acknowledge the blessings of the present and look to the promise of the future with excitement, expectation, and optimism. One love, one heart, one people, one nation under God. Long may it endure. God bless you all, and may God continue to bless these beloved isles, Cayman.
All right, and welcome back to CIGTV's live coverage of Heroes Day 2020, National Heroes Day.
That was just the wrap-up of the remarks from Premier Honorable Alden McLaughlin, who really gave us an insight into the history of our written Constitution and the significant changes that happened throughout the years. And he made that awesome announcement of the issuance of the new $1 banknote that commemorates the 60th anniversary of the first written Constitution of the Cayman Islands, and we just got ours. I hope.
Yes. All right, so I think coming up next we have...
I believe it's going to be some school children who's going to be doing the quadrille dancing. Mm-hmm. You know, I haven't learned the quadrille as of yet.
Oh, me either.
I can move, but I don't.
Me either. It's really a shame. We should know how to. Do you know how to?
I'm guilty. Yes. No.
Oh dear. And yes, the students are from the former Northside Primary School. And they look so beautiful in their costumes. The young gentlemen, the young boys are wearing the now the new Cayman flag shirts that have been designed as of late. I think everybody needs to have at least one of those. It shows our flag, and of course the young ladies are dressed in their quadrille outfits. So we're gonna take a listen and a watch at their performance.
And we would like to say it's a pleasure to have the Radio Cayman listeners tuned in, as well as the watchers or viewers on CIG TV. Right now we can see the quadrille dancers and the young ladies in their traditional Caymanian dress, and they're just doing their thing and doing the quadrille dancing, dressed in, looks like a plaid dress, a Caymanian dress, with red on the collar and a red on the waist and the white frill on the end of the dress. And the lovely gentlemen, young gentlemen, Shanda?
Yes, they're also decked out in the Cayman Islands national flag on their shirt, and they have the colors blue, red, and white, as well as the crest there in the back on the front. And they're dancing very well. You could tell that they've rehearsed this part, and they also have a thatch rope hat on, and very significant and unique elements of our Cayman tradition.
And all eyes are feast on these young ladies and gentlemen. They're teenagers, actually, but we're going to call them gentlemen now.
They look a little younger.
I think they're from the Edna Moyle Primary School.
Primary School, and it's about 8 of them, just dancing this traditional quadrille dance.
This brings back so many memories for me as a child in Cayman Brac, when we would have this type of music, and then we'd have everybody trying to dance around the maypole or even climb the grease pole. So this is jog a lot of memories here for me this morning. So it's a beautiful sight to see. And the young gentleman wearing the Caymanian flag, I believe, on the shirt, and the silver thatch hat.
I love that they're all smiles, like they're really enjoying this moment.
They really are. And if you're just joining us by radio on Radio Cayman, or tuning in or viewing us on CIG TV, you are watching live coverage, simulcast of National Heroes Day 2020, when we're celebrating our national heroes, our vestrymen, and the first four women to be nominated for elections, the general elections back in 1959. So very important day in our history. The first event to be held for National Heroes Day started back in 2003, the year of our quincentennial celebrations.
And the young ladies in a circle now, and the young gentlemen take a bow. Oh, this is interesting. They kind of bowed it in.
That's actually the traditional style of which they conclude the quadrille dance by coming together, and they link arms.
Yes.
And they go in and then they come back out. They go in and they come back out. So that's actually quite nice that they're having the personal touches to the dance as well, and the traditional dance. And then now they're going around with each other.
And as I look out in the audience, I can see some heads bopping and some.
Yes.
Oh, they love that. Yes, nice applause there
for them. That
wonderful,
was
wonderful
really
job
nice.
by students of the Edna Moyle Primary School in Northside.
Take a bow.
Great job.
They're now taking a bow and saluting the platform party.
Yes. Okay. Well, it sounds like Shanda can teach us, because she knows exactly what's going on, and we'll just have to partake.
That was a very long time ago. That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Around 8 school children just did that special item for us from the Edna Moyle Primary School quadrille dancers.
It's so encouraging to see our traditions are being kept alive and showcased by our youth. Today, we pay homage to the Phenomenal Four, the first 4 women who stood in the 1959 general election, having obtained the right to vote only the year prior. To honor these brave and tenacious women, we invite to the podium one of our parliamentarians. Please welcome Ms. Barbara Conley, Counselor for Education, Youth, Finance, and Economic Development, to offer remarks commemorating the contributions of the Phenomenal Four.
Good morning, everyone. Women's suffrage in the Cayman Islands, as highlighted earlier by the Honorable Premier, is an incredible example of the power of conviction, collaboration, courage, and vision. The 358 women who petitioned for the right to vote in the Cayman Islands and the 4 women who first stood for public office truly paved the way for women to make an impact on legislature and politics in the Cayman Islands. It is my pleasure to recognize the Phenomenal Four, the first women to stand in the Cayman Islands general election in 1959. Mrs. Ethel Rose Kensington Cook Bodden. Ethel Kensington was born in Devon, England. She moved to Grand Cayman in 1945 with her second husband, Eric Cook Bodden, and her 2 sons, Ralph Kensington Lott and Eden Cook Bodden. After the death of her husband in 1955, she owned and single-handedly operated the Yankee Notion shop, the English shop, and the Caymania duty-free shop at Owen Roberts International Airport, as well as many other investments. She's recognized as one of Cayman's first businesswomen and strongly supported the development of tourism and aviation here. Soon after settling in Cayman, Mrs. Cook Bodden became involved with the development of the Georgetown Hospital. She often provided food, supplies, and linens for the sick and organized Easter and Christmas gifts for the patients. She founded the Grand Cayman British Red Cross and was its main supporter for many years. She was a volunteer at the Georgetown Library and organized and sponsored the first Miss Cayman Islands beauty pageant. She was also active in the struggle for women's suffrage, having signed the 1957 petition seeking voting rights for women, and was a candidate in the District of Georgetown in the 1959 election. Mrs. Ethel passed away in 1993. Mrs. Lily Burdell Jackson. Lily Burdell Jackson was the epitome of a life lived for others. Along with her husband, the late Harley A. Jackson, she raised an adopted son and daughter. She lived in the Mount Pleasant area, which was considered a long distance from central West Bay, and she started a Presbyterian Sunday school there so that Mount Pleasant children could attend. She served as an elder of John Gray Memorial Church for many years, as well as a Sunday school teacher, superintendent, and counselor. She shared everything she had with her neighbors, friends, and customers of the stores in which she worked. In 1957, she signed the petition for the right for women to vote, and in 1959, she stepped forward to be the first woman in West Bay to stand in a general election. Mrs. Burdell passed away in 1992. Mrs. Francine Jackson. Francine Jackson, now 91 years old, was a 29-year-old stay-at-home mother when she signed the petition seeking voting rights for women. This was delivered to the Legislative Assembly in March 1957. The petition was successful, and Mrs. Jackson was then one of the first 4 women to stand for election in 1959. Subsequently, Mrs. Jackson had an active career as a teacher and an insurance underwriter. She then worked along with her late husband, Vernon L. Jackson, OBE, to form the first wedding company in the Cayman Islands, and continues to this day to perform marriage ceremonies as a civil registrar of marriages. She's always been an active member of the United Church, serving faithfully in various capacities, and was recognized in 2013 for outstanding service by the Church Synod. She was awarded a Gold Medal of Merit in 2013. Mrs. Jackson continues to live a full life with her 3 children and their families, 8 grandchildren, and 13 great-grandchildren. Mrs. Laurel Watler. Laurel Aldith Watler was born in Boddentown, Grand Cayman, on the 27th of February, 1924, the first child of Philippe Hislop and Dora Ann Hislop, nee Wood. She attended the all-age school under the headmastership of Mr. Thomas Hill, Mr. Lee Ebanks, and Mr. Clifton Hunter. With her husband, the late Hardin Watler Sr., being a seaman like most Caymanian men of that era, Laurel remained at home as a housewife and became a seamstress, making clothing for women from every district on the island. In 1957, she signed the petition for the right for women to vote. In 1959, Mr. Clifton Hunter and Mr. Logan Bodden encouraged her to stand in the election held that year. At nearly 96 years of age, she now wonders how she had the nerve to make such an intrepid attempt. She muses that the district of Boddentown was much smaller then and much wiser as well. She's possibly the oldest registered farmer on the island and continues to raise cattle. She has also been very actively involved in the Webster Memorial United Church, serving in many capacities over the years, and continues to worship there on a regular basis. We are so very fortunate to still have both Mrs. Francine and Mrs. Laurel alive, well, and here with us today. I proudly stand here as one of the 3 women currently serving in the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly. I invite one of the other 2 women currently serving, the Honorable Tara Rivers, to join me to make presentations. It is indeed our pleasure to invite representatives of Mrs. Ethel and Mrs. Burdell, Mrs. Francine and Mrs. Laurel, to be recognized for their outstanding courage, leadership, and contribution to women's suffrage in the Cayman Islands. Mrs. Francine Jackson. Mrs. Laurel Watler was unable to be here today, so we just would like to acknowledge her, just to say that she was one of our ladies as well. Mrs. Lily Burdell Jackson, represented by Alice Mako. Mrs. Ethel Cook-Bodden, represented by Harriet Jean Lott.
Thank you, Councillor Barbara Conley and Minister Tara Rivers. Today we have made history as we honored the Phenomenal Four. These ladies bravely proved that women had a right to participate in the political process, not just by casting a vote, but by putting themselves forward as political candidates willing to serve the people of the Cayman Islands in a truly representative government. Their bravery and tenacity unleashed the potential of all of our citizens to contribute to the governance of these islands. Today, the three women who currently hold seats in the Legislative Assembly have collectively shattered every glass ceiling. Collectively, they have held positions of councillor, minister, premier, and speaker of the Legislative Assembly. Let's give those ladies a round of applause as well. There are nations much larger than ours that haven't achieved such a milestone. We have come a long way in the past 60 years due to the tenacity of our foremothers. And so they were so ably represented then, and we are so ably represented today. Thank you. As you will have gathered, this was a pivotal time in the history of the Cayman Islands. Women gained the right to vote and to stand for public office, and the Cayman Islands received its first written constitution. To tell us about the remarkable pioneers of the Cayman Islands' first written constitution, I invite to the podium the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Alva Saku.
Protocol having been established, let me just begin by saying good morning. The path towards democracy and self-government in the Cayman Islands has been a long one. As we heard earlier during the Honorable Premier's address, those of us who live in this country today benefit from the system of government that has been put in place, and we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to the foresight and perseverance of all of those who have played their part in our progress and prosperity. The final sitting of the Legislative Assembly of Justices in Vestry took place on the 3rd of July, 1959, the day before the new Constitution came into effect. The speeches made during this last meeting by some of the then members who we honor today have been found to be sage words of wisdom, even prophetic, reflecting the solemnity of the closure of one era and the eager optimism of the dawning of a new era in our political history. National hero, the Honorable Thomas William Farrington, in his address, timelessly captured the spirit of the moment, making the following statement to his colleagues and a country about to embark on a new journey, and I quote, "I must also thank and congratulate members of this Assembly for their individual contributions to all the deliberations in this House for the preservation and continuity of the best traditions which we Caymanians hold so dear. It is obvious that some faces that are here today will, of necessity, be left out of the new House. But for those of you who will be returned, I would say, be watchful, be vigilant, be wise. Let us not lower the flag, but press on with courage and determination, that as we go forward into the future, that we shall always be proud to be called Caymanians." End of quote. Those were indeed mighty and suitable words from one of our greatest statesmen at an unprecedented moment in our history. Today, some 60 years later, we come together to laud the service and strategic vision of the pioneers who gave us our first written constitution. As we take time now to celebrate the members of the 1958-59 Legislative Assembly of Justices in Vestry, let us be proud of them, let us be grateful to them, and let us always be inspired by them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saku, for sharing with us the background of the remarkable men who pioneered our first written Constitution. Today, we'll commemorate this event by the presentation of awards to the vestrymen and justices of the peace who served during 1958 to 1959. I invite the Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, to present these awards. I will also invite, in turn, the current elected members of the Legislative Assembly to join the Premier as we make these presentations by the districts that would have existed at that time. You are welcome to applaud after each name is called and as awards are presented on stage. Please use the assigned photography area to take photos. Each nominee being recognized today pioneered our first written Constitution and served at the time as a vestryman or justice of the peace. The honorees are represented today by their descendants, who will receive a framed copy of the honoree's biography, a commemorative dollar bill, and a certificate of recognition. I invite Councillor Captain Eugene Ebanks to join the Premier in making this presentation. For the area of West Bay, vestryman Arthur Harris Ebanks. Captain Owen Graham Ebanks. Thank you, Captain Eugene Ebanks. I now invite the Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Bernie Bush, to come forward for the presentation. Captain James Cadian Ebanks. Wilborn Stanford Wells. Thank you, Mr. Bush. I now invite the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Dr. the Honorable McKeeva Bush, to come forward for the presentation. James Prentice Powell, Sr. Continuing for the area of West Bay, Justices of the Peace, John Samuel Smith. Samuel Osbert Bertie Ebanks. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I now invite the Honorable Tara Rivers to come forward to assist with the presentation. Lee Alfonso Ebanks. Thomas Abram Ebanks. Honorable Captain Thomas William Farrington. Thank you, Honorable Tara Rivers. I now invite the Honorable Roy McTaggart to come forward to assist with the presentation. For the area of Georgetown, Vestryman Alan Berkeley Bush. Edgar Dukin Marin. I understand the representatives are not able to be with us today. Hugh Malcolm Coe. I understand Mr. Coe's family is not able to be with us today. Thank you, Honorable Roy McTaggart. I now invite Councillor Barbara Conley to come forward to assist with the presentation. Honorable Ormond Louder Panton. William Wallace Bodden. I understand Mr. Bodden's representatives are not able to be with us today. Continuing for the area of Georgetown, Justices of the Peace, Captain Rail Braisley Bodden Sr. Thank you, Councillor Barbara Conley. I now invite Minister Joseph Hugh to participate in the presentation. Honorable Desmond Veer Watler. Edmund Samuel Parsons. I understand Mr. Parsons' family isn't able to be with us. Ernest Otti Panton. And I understand Mr. Panton's representatives aren't able to be with us. Thank you, Minister Hugh. I would now invite Councillor David White to participate in the presentation. James Ashford Panton. Major Joseph Rodriguez Roddy Watler. Thank you, Councillor White. I now invite MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan to participate in the presentation. Otto Gordon Hurlston. Mr. Hurlston's representatives are not able to be with us. Thomas Frederick Hill. Thank you, Mr. Bryan. I now invite Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Alva Saku, to participate in the presentation. For the area of Savannah, Justice of the Peace, M.S. Mortimer Forbes. For the area of Boddentown, Vestryman, Alfred Biddle Bodden. Thank you, Mr. Saku. I now invite the Honorable Dwayne Seymour to participate in the presentation. Harold Stewart. William Benjamin McCoy. William John Willie Wood. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now invite MLA Mr. Christopher Saunders to participate in the presentation. For the area of Boddentown, Justices of the Peace, Richard Philip Bodden. Thomas Logan Bodden. Thank you, Mr. Saunders. I now invite the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Arden McLean, to assist with the presentation. For the area of East End, vestryman Lincoln Benjamin Bodden. Mr. Bodden's representatives are not able to be with us. Norman Rudolph McLaughlin. William Allen McLaughlin. We are able to be joined by the representatives of Lincoln Benjamin Bodden. Continuing for the area of East End, Justice of the Peace, Austin Burns Connolly. Thank you, Honorable Arden McLean. I now invite MLA Mr. Ezra Miller to assist with the presentation. For the area of North Side, vestryman Cradock Ebanks. Samuel Adolphus Powery. Continuing for the area of North Side, Justice of the Peace Bertram Ebanks. Thank you, Mr. Miller. For the area of Prospect, the Premier will make the presentations. Vestryman, Alfred Lawrence Thompson, Sr. James Carl Thompson. C. Lindbergh Eden. I now invite the Deputy Premier, Honorable Moses Kirkconnell, to assist with the presentations. For the Sister Islands, Vestryman, Captain Charles Gerald Kirkconnell. Captain Kirkconnell's family representatives aren't able to be here. Captain Keith Parker Tibbetts, Sr. Nolan Brown Foster. Captain Robert Clifton Foster. Continuing for the Sister Islands, Justices of the Peace, Aston Shedden Ruddy. Dennis Haley Foster. Captain Edwin Ellis Walton, Jr. James Nathaniel Tibbetts. John Cummins Lazare. Lawford George Lawrence. I understand Mr. Lawrence's representatives are not able to be here. Captain Reginald Bloomfield Kirkconnell. Presented and received by the Deputy Premier. Wade Taylor Foster. Thank you, Deputy Premier. Also a part of the 1958 to 59 legislative body were Sir James Rufus Aswood and Chief of Police E. Sandy Sherwood. They are not represented today, but will be awarded on a separate occasion. I now invite His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, the Honorable W. McKeeva Bush, and the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Arden McLean, to come forward for the final presentation. We are privileged to present this last award to our only surviving member of the 1958 to 59 legislative body of the Cayman Islands. Representing the area of Boddentown, Vestryman Arlie James A.J. Miller. Sir, we proudly recognize you for being with us 61 years later to see the fruit of your labor. Please do stand. Today, as we gather in Hero Square, we reflect on a Cayman Islands which is the envy of many. a home where we enjoy relative peace and prosperity in an age of modernity which began 61 years ago with our first written Constitution. We now present Mr. Miller with a framed copy of his biography, a commemorative banknote, and a certificate of recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, may we all give Mr. A.J. Miller a round of applause, as we owe him and the other vestrymen and justices of the peace a tremendous debt of gratitude. Another round of applause for Mr. A.J. Miller. I wish you could hear the conversation on stage. Some of our current MLAs are seeking tips. What a privilege to be able to recognize and celebrate our living history. Today we recognized extraordinary men and women who in the late 1950s set the Cayman Islands on a solid pathway to a bright future. They did so by ensuring and preserving the rights of all people. They ensured universal suffrage, the right of both men and women to vote and stand for election, and established the Cayman Islands on a solid democratic platform with the adoption of the Cayman Islands' first written constitution. Again, the people of the Cayman Islands are forever grateful to you. Each year on National Heroes Day, we celebrate and commemorate our national heroes. A national hero is a person who is admired and acknowledged for their courage, outstanding achievements, and notable qualities. A national hero is someone who, beyond that, has made significant positive contributions to the growth and development of our society and represents all of us. Honoring our heroes is an acknowledgement of who we are, our history, our heritage, our culture. Our first national hero, the Honorable James Jim Manoa Bodden, was a charismatic trailblazer. Mr. Bodden was a visionary leader who ushered in a period of modernity and directed Cayman into an era of progress. As Minister for Tourism and Aviation, he was instrumental in establishing Cayman Airways and constructing Owen Roberts International Airport for the first time. Mr. Bodden's dedication to this country is forever commemorated by his statue, the first to be erected in Heroes Square. The Honorable Mary Evelyn Wood. Dedication and selfless service were her hallmarks. A true pioneer, she devoted her life to positive change for these islands, and in particular, the advancement of women's rights. She was the first woman elected to the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly and the first to serve on a jury. In her early 20s, she started a small school in her father's home, serving as the sole teacher. Several years later, after training as a practical nurse, she changed vocations. Her most notable service as a nurse was during the typhoid epidemic of the late 1930s, when she provided tireless care to households across the Cayman Islands. In 1957, she joined hundreds of other women in signing the petition which resulted in the passage of the Sex Discrimination Removal Law 1957, which granted women the right to vote and to stand for public office. In 1962, she was elected a member of the Legislative Assembly representing the District of Bordentown. She was declared a national hero in 2011. Honorable Orman Lauder Panton. This very special son of Cayman was one of the most prominent political figures in the Cayman Islands history. The first Caymanian attorney to appear before the Privy Council in London. He founded the first political party to succeed at the polls and was the first politician to win an election as party leader. He was also the youngest delegate to attend the West Indies Federation discussions and served as the lead negotiator between the UK and its overseas territories in discussions on independence. Representing the District of Georgetown as a legislator, he introduced a motion to allow local authorities to issue U.S. visa waivers, thereby facilitating Caymanian employment as merchant marines. In his private career, the outspoken attorney achieved many more firsts for his country, including succeeding in confirming his right to a fair trial in 1955. Recognized by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, he was named as Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 1984. He was declared a national hero in 2011. Honorable William Warren Conley, a man of vision and drive. He was a major player in the Cayman Islands political, economic, and social landscape. He entered politics in 1944 as an elected member from East End. In 1959, under the Cayman Islands' first constitution, he was appointed to serve as a nominated member of the Legislative Assembly. When Cayman received an advanced constitution in 1972, he became one of the first members of the new Executive Council. A founding member of the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, he came to be regarded as an expert on the Cayman Islands Constitution. During his time in government, he set in motion early legislation on banks and trust companies, as well as land registration and land adjudication. He was instrumental in creating the Department of Tourism and the Mosquito Research and Control Unit. In addition, he spearheaded the official introduction of the Cayman Islands currency in May 1972 and oversaw the completion of various key government works. He was declared a national hero in 2011. The process of memorializing a person with a statue, sculpture, or bust is an intricate process. After all, it's art meeting life. First, there's the technical aspect of ensuring the sculpture represents the likeness of the person. And then there's the more emotional aspect, where the particular specifics and details of the individual must be captured, depicted, and memorialized for all time. For several months, the Cayman Islands government has been in consultation with the families of the national heroes to ensure that their likeness and essence are accurately captured and depicted in the bust on display in Heroes Square. We are pleased that 5 of the busts have been carefully designed and created and will be unveiled today on this 2020 National Heroes Day celebration. I will read the inscription of the plaque accompanying each statue immediately prior to the unveiling of each bust by the Honorable Premier, who will be joined by representatives of our National Heroes family and and a contemporary who is actively contributing in a field for which our national hero has been recognized. In this way, the work of our national heroes continue and the Cayman Islands grows from strength to strength. The Honorable Sybil Ione McLaughlin, the epitome of accomplishment, grace, and decorum. The Honorable Sybil McLaughlin is an example of the qualities to which all of us as citizens should aspire. In 1996, she became our second national hero, and she remains the only person to receive the country's highest award while she is still living. This honor was bestowed in recognition of her contribution to the Cayman Islands parliamentary development as well as to community life. Among the many milestones in her remarkable life was her appointment as the first Speaker of the Legislative Assembly from 1991 until her retirement in 1996. She joined the civil service in 1945 and was appointed Clerk of the Legislative Assembly in 1959. The first woman to hold that position in the entire Commonwealth. She served as Secretary of the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association from 1965 to 1980. A founding member and former president of the Business and Professional Women's Club, she also served for many years as the organist at the South Sound and North Side United Churches. She was declared a national hero in 1996. Honorable Sybil McLaughlin sends her regards, but she is represented here today by family members and a contemporary, Ms. Chanel Martinez, the 2019 Cayman Islands Youth Parliament Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. The Honorable Sybil Ione McLaughlin. Another round of applause. The Honorable Desmond Vere Watler. He was respected by all as an exemplary citizen and exceptional civil servant. Starting out as a clerk, almost 4 decades of public service career saw him rise through the ranks to become, in 1969, the Cayman Islands' first treasurer, now financial secretary. He became the first chief secretary, now deputy governor, of the Cayman Islands in 1972. He served in the Legislative Assembly for 32 years and was the first official member and chairman of the Executive Council. He was honored twice by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, first in 1966 as an officer of the Order of the British Empire, and again in 1975 as a commander of that order. Highly regarded for his soft-spoken demeanor, he came to be considered a model of civil service integrity. His life remains a sterling example to today's young people, demonstrating that with hard work, dedication, and commitment to excellence, it is possible to reach the top of the career ladder. The Honorable Desmond Vere Watler was declared a national hero in 2011. The Premier is joined by the Honorable Desmond Watler's family members and contemporary Head of the Civil Service, Deputy Governor, the Honorable Franz Manderson. Another round of applause for the Honorable Desmond Watler. The Honorable Sybil Joyce Hilton, remembered for her outstanding commitment to youth. She was the Cayman Islands' first probation and welfare officer, and a lifelong advocate for disadvantaged people. She became the island's sole probation officer in 1963, going on to serve as the first head of the Probation and Welfare Department until 1982. This zeal for championing social issues, such as a separate court for juveniles, continued into her retirement from the civil service. In her private life, among other projects, she helped to develop the scouting movement in the Cayman Islands. She also played a vital role in establishing the Lions Club of Grand Cayman's Christmas programs for underprivileged families. Honored and recognized throughout the community for her numerous contributions to the lives of young people, she received the Cayman Islands Certificate and Badge of Honor in 1968 and was named a member of the Order of the British Empire 10 years later. She was declared a national hero in 2011. The Premier is joined by the Honorable Sybil Hilton's family members and contemporary Miss Patricia Hanlon, the Cayman Islands' first qualified social worker, a mentee of Miss Hilton's, and currently employed as a social worker at the Department of Children and Family Services. Another round of applause for the Honorable Sybil Joyce Hilton. Honorable Dr. Roy Edison McTaggart, a founding father of our nation. He was a pioneering politician, businessman, and philanthropist. Yet he is perhaps best remembered as an influential figure in ensuring the Cayman Islands remained a British Crown colony when Jamaica became independent in 1962. Totally opposed to aligning with Jamaica, he canvassed the Cayman Islands and received more than 3,000 signatures in support of remaining with Britain. A legislator representing Georgetown for more than 35 years, he helped bring free education to the Cayman Islands in 1931, introducing the Compulsory Free Education Bill. He was also the first chairman of the former Cayman Heritage Council. A dentist by profession, he embarked on numerous entrepreneurial ventures and was the chairman of the Cayman Islands Shipping Company Limited that owned and operated the MV Simboko, a vessel that was a lifeline for Caymanians during World War II. A generous man, he contributed to the Pines Retirement Home and Prospect Youth Center. He was declared a national hero in 2016. The Premier is joined by the Honorable Roy McTaggart's family members and contemporary in the field of education, Miss Lorna Reed, the Cayman Islands' longest-serving teacher, still in the classroom since 1981, some 38 years. Another round of applause for Honorable the Dr. Roy Edison McTaggart. The Honorable Thomas William Farrington, a former legislator and statesman. He became one of the Cayman Islands' most outstanding citizens. A man of wisdom, persuasiveness, and sincerity, he represented the District of West Bay in the Legislative Assembly for 55 years, including time spent as the first elected member to be responsible for finance. He helped to establish what is today the John Gray High School and was instrumental in the development of the Cayman Islands' first airport. A key contributor to discussions regarding local participation in the West Indies Federation, he was among the first to be elected to the Executive Council after the first Constitution was introduced in 1959. In 1965, he became the first Caymanian to be honored by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as a commander of the British Empire. He was named Father of the House for his lengthy and continuous service in the Legislative Assembly, as much as for his wisdom and insight in matters of public interest. The Honorable Farrington was declared a national hero in 2011. The Premier is joined by the Honorable Thomas William Farrington's family members and contemporary in the field of aviation, Crystal Godet. The first Cayman Islands female flight captain, proudly employed at Cayman Airways. Another round of applause for the Honorable Thomas William Farrington. Thank you, Honorable Premier, National Heroes families, and our distinguished contemporaries. The remaining bust will be unveiled at the 2021 National Heroes Day celebrations, a moment we can all look forward to. I now call upon the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Samuel Rose, to announce the wreath laying. Wreaths will be laid at the various monuments here in Hero Square in honor of our nation builders and national heroes.
National Heroes Day is a time to reflect and be inspired. During each year's ceremony, we celebrate the best of our community, our people, our history, our heritage. Throughout the celebrations, Caymanian culture is celebrated in significant and subtle ways. Further, we live in a beautiful country that we have a collective responsibility to protect, and so we are taking a more environmentally conscious approach to this particular segment of our program. At this year's National Heroes Day celebrations, we are pleased to share that one of our local traditional artists from East End, Mrs. Carmen Connolly, has created our memorial wreaths using thatch rope made from the indigenous silver thatch palm, our national tree. Each wreath is individually designed with reclaimed pieces of nature found around our islands: palm fronds, sea grape leaves, sea fans, shells, seasonal floral blooms, all tied together with ribbon highlighting the colors found on the Cayman Islands flag and coat of arms. We are proud to highlight our heritage and creative talent of our local artisans in this way, and we are delighted that Mrs. Carmen Connolly is also here with us today to participate in the wreath laying ceremony. Thank you, Mrs. Connolly. At this time, I call upon all wreath layers to come forward. The wreath for our first national hero, the late Honorable James Manoa Bawden, is laid by his great-grandson, Mr. Nathan Trumbach. The wreath for the Women's Monument, Aspiration, a monument dedicated to the women of the Cayman Islands, is laid by the Honorable Mary Lawrence, Mrs. Carmen Connolly, Mrs. Daphne Orrit, Miss Heather Bawden, and Miss Lucille Seymour. The wreath for Tradition Monument, a testament of the 450 seafarers who lost their lives at sea, is laid by Mrs. Judy Langford in memory of her grandfather, Mr. Charles Gilman Crow. Mr. David Michael Espute in memory of his great-grandfather, Captain George Nelson Jackson, Miss Claudette Eden in memory of her grandfather, David Duzel Yates, and Mr. Joey Ebanks in memory of his uncle, John Clyde Cranston. The wreath for the Catboat Monument, depicting the traditional Caymanian vehicle, an iconic reminder of our seafaring past, is laid by Mr. Jerris Miller, wreaths will be laid at the black granite walls of honor, which are engraved with the names of 500 Caymanian heroes, our nation builders, as well as at the national heroes' busts. In recognition of Bordentown builders, the wreath is laid by Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Mr. Alva Saku, and Mr. Christopher Saunders, members of the Legislative Assembly. Mrs. Jennifer Dilbert will lay the wreath in memory of her aunt and the national hero from the District of Bordentown, the Honorable Mary Evelyn Wood. Let me correct, the Catboat Monument wreath was laid by Mr. Ned Miller. In recognition of Georgetown nation builders, the wreath is laid by our Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, the Honorable Roy McTaggart, the Honorable Joseph Hugh, Councillor Barbara Connolly, Councillor David White, and Mr. Kenneth Bryan. They are also joined by Mr. Brian Hunter, who will lay a wreath in memory of his grandfather and the national hero from the District of Georgetown, the Honorable Ormond Panton. Mrs. Kristen Watler Miller will lay a wreath in memory of her grandfather and the national hero, Honorable Desmond V. Watler. Dr. Erica Simmons will lay a wreath in memory of her grandmother and the national hero, the Honorable Sybil Joyce Hilton. And Mr. David White and Miss Delicia White will lay the wreath in memory of their granduncle and the national hero from the District of Georgetown, the Honorable Dr. Roy McTaggart. Mr. White will be joined by Miss Krista White as well. And in recognition of West Bay Nation builders, the wreath is laid by the Honorable Makiva Bush, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Honorable Tyre Rivers, Honorable Bernie Bush, Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, and Captain Eugene Ebanks. Captain Owen Farrington will lay the wreath in memory of his father, the national hero from the District of West Bay, the Honorable Thomas William Farrington. In recognition of our Northside Nation builders, the wreath is laid by Mr. Ezra Miller, member of the Legislative Assembly. In recognition of East End Nation builders, the wreath is laid by the Honorable Arden McLean, Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Jonathan Smelly will lay the wreath in memory of his grandfather, the national hero from the District of East End, the Honorable William Warren Connolly. In recognition of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman Nation builders, the wreath is laid by the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Moses Kirkconnell. And in memory of the legislative class responsible for pioneering the establishment of our first written constitution, Mr. Alfonso Wright, the Executive Chairman of Celebrate Cayman, will lay a wreath at the grounds of Constitution Hall, formerly the Georgetown Town Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please rise as we observe a moment of silence in memory of all of our nation builders whose names are etched in the granite walls before us, as well as in the hearts of a grateful nation. Please be seated. It is my pleasure to invite our Honorable Premier to announce next year's National Heroes Day theme.
It is my pleasure to announce that the theme for next year's National Heroes Day will be celebrating the contribution of our seafarers.
Well done. Please remain seated or stand in place as the parade marches back into Heroes Square.
All right, and welcome back to our live coverage here in Heroes Square. I'm Donna Bush, if you're just joining us with CIG Television. And joining me are Susan Watson and Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman.
Yes, I would love to just mention that this program was well organized and it went by so smoothly.
Yes,
right
it
on
did.
time. And there was a jam-packed program here in Heroes Square, Georgetown. And we are just winding down the program. And I think we're on the edge of the closing, the official closing of the National Heroes Day Celebrations 2020. Susan, your thoughts so far on what we've...
Very well organized, and I think that this Heroes Day was not as well attended as some of the previous National Heroes Day, but we're still happy to have all the people in attendance here this morning. But
Yes,
it was well
absolutely.
organized. The Royal Cayman Islands Band on point. The quadrille dancers.
That
I
was
love
beautiful. Those
Yes,
students
yeah.
from the Edna Mole Primary School were on point. I got a few tips.
Yes. And I know we have a lot of highlights that we want to mention just after the program, but right now what we're doing is waiting on the official parade to join us back into Heroes Square, and that will now take us out for this 2020 National Heroes Day celebrations.
Yep. Well, we had 5 new Heroes bus that were unveiled from 5 of our existing 9 heroes. So that was very, very interesting. The families of those 5 heroes actually watched the unveiling. It was beautiful. It was
Yes.
sentimental and just a great job put on by the protocol office.
Absolutely.
And Celebrate Cayman team and all the high numbers of volunteers today.
With the busts, we just want to mention quickly those individuals recognized: Honorable Sybil McLaughlin, the only living hero; Honorable Desmond Watler; Honorable Sybil Joyce Hilton; Honorable Roy Edison McTaggart; and Honorable Thomas William Farrington. Now, those are the ones that we were able to see and to witness their busts.
Yeah, and the remainder of the National Heroes bus will be unveiled in the next Heroes Day celebrations in 2021.
And the theme for that is celebrating Cayman Islands Seafarers,
Yes.
which was just announced by Honorable Premier Honorable Alda McLaughlin.
Well, we've had a wonderful seafaring history, so that'll be a really good day as well.
Yes. And we can hear the Royal Cayman Islands Police Band as they get ready to welcome back the various contingents on the this Heroes Day parade as they get in position to be here in Heroes Square once again.
Yes, and we have the Cayman Islands, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service joining us back, the Cayman Islands Fire Service, Her Majesty's Prison Service, Cadet Corps, Girls Brigade, Scouts, and the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders, all joining us, ready to close off this 2020 National Heroes Day celebrations. And you can obviously hear the band, the official band, I believe it's representatives from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service.
Yes. You know, ladies, what's been really interesting is seeing how many visitors we've had to come and sit with us today. And of course, we'll hear from one couple in just a little bit. But it was nice to see our visitors come and actually sit down and enjoy the event. I mean, how great is that?
Yes, it was very, very great. And just seeing their smiles and seeing how they're taking in the sights and sounds of this celebration. And I know a lot of them are actually coming now from the waterfront area. You're seeing them crowding the area. And they've been here from the very beginning from the start of the ceremony today. So that was quite interesting to see them as well.
All right, we're just going to take a listen as we wrap up here.
So once again, we are seeing the traditional parade rejoining us in Heroes Square, and the contingents now just getting in a line order, as they were called. I was a part of the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders, so I know a little thing or two. Not about a quadrille dance.
You're going to be teaching us a lot, aren't you?
Yeah, so what they're doing now is just getting in formation, in a line, just to make sure that they're all in order now to continue with the proceeds. It's just something that we do when it comes to parades, when it comes to, bands and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
it's the pomp and circumstance, they call it. But I was pointing out to you earlier that as I was watching everyone march, the young ladies seemed to be a little out of sync, whereas the young boys were like,
they're
very
on point.
yeah, very much on point. It was very interesting to watch.
And once again, it's the contingents of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, the Cayman Islands Fire Service, Her Majesty's Prison Service, Cadet Corps, Girls Brigade Scouts, and the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders.
Which will be led by Mr. Eric Nicholson.
Right! Red! Set!
Caribbean sea.
Right. Standard. East. Stand. Easy.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson. Today has been a fantastic celebration of our history and heritage and an inspiration to us all. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this concludes our formalities for this year's Cayman Islands National Heroes Day celebration. Today, we made history as we honored those persons who have made extraordinary contributions to these beloved Cayman Islands. We thank them, and we thank all of you for being a part of today's celebration. Please do remain standing for the departure of the officials, beginning with His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper.
Right. Red. Head. Shoulder up. Royal salute. Present. Up. Shoulder up. Order up. Standard. East. Stand easy.
Please remain standing for the departure of the Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin and Mrs. Kim McLaughlin.
Hey. Red. Head.
All right, and welcome back to our live coverage as we get ready to wrap up our CIG TV and Radio Cayman live coverage of National Heroes Day 2020 today. So there's several things that are happening right now if you're in Radio Land and TV Land.
This is the official departures. We just saw His Excellency Governor Martin Roper depart, and now we're seeing Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin making his official departure. But first, acknowledging the parade and the ceremony.
Yes.
Once again, the 2020 theme, granting of the Constitution, we were able to just see and pay tribute and celebrate the vestrymen and justices of the peace who understood the importance of the Cayman Islands being protected by a written constitution, as well as the women, the wonderful, brave women of these islands who fought very hard for their right to be counted and bravely stood in the 1959 general election. We were able to see many other highlights for this ceremony, and I know we cannot wait to discuss that. But that is the 2020 theme, and we were just actually able to hear the 2021 theme being announced by Premier Honorable Alden McLaughlin, celebrating our seafarers. So I know that's going to be another huge celebration here.
Yes, because our seafaring heritage is so vast. I mean, I know that my father went to sea at a very young age, and I think that most of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers and fathers went to sea. So to celebrate them and those who are still with us is going to be a really, really important day for, I think, most families in the Cayman Islands.
I agree. I know my father, he was a captain of ships, so it was a pleasure to see him come home from a long trip.
Yeah.
Yes, so I have fond memories of that as well.
Oh, isn't that great? You could live through that era and experience that era. yeah, it's just phenomenal.
I remember one time he brought this special locket, and and then when I got from school, my cousin had it on her neck. I'm like, that's fine.
I mean, you think about our mariners and our seafarers. They traveled the world. I have great uncles, and that went to Japan, the shores of Japan and Venezuela. I mean, you name it, they visited so many countries around the world. So they were very well traveled from this little island that time forgot. And even our mariners, our maritime, heritage is second to the Norwegians in the world, which is an incredible feat for such a small place.
It absolutely is. And just to remind you guys, this is the largest official event hosted by the Cayman Islands government, and a lot went into making this what it is today. We want to also acknowledge the Cayman Islands government office, the Office of the Premier, the Ministry of Culture, Protocol Office, and of course the Celebrate Cayman Committee, which was very instrumental in preparing the program and preparing the background information for a lot of these individuals that have been honored and recognized this year.
Yes, they were.
I'm reminded by this quote by Benjamin Disraeli. It says, "The legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example."
Yeah,
I
the
love
legacy
that.
that's it. That is so on point.
Yeah. And just a friendly reminder, after the conclusion of the ceremony, folks can stick around and enjoy some Caymanian delicacies, may I say? And
oh, yes.
As well as you can tour the historical exhibits at the Georgetown Library and Constitutional Hall.
Yes. And then, of course, don't forget the cultural entertainment. That I cannot wait to hear the band.
Yeah, I think that, is it the Cayman Music Association? They're going to be performing, the band's going to be performing from noon till 3 o'clock. So you can come down here and enjoy the sounds of Caymanian musicians and entertainers.
And how about that song by Mr. Was it Eric
Nicholson? Yes.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
He did the national song, and
so good.
that was remarkable. I had goosebumps, especially seeing the flag the Cayman Islands national flag just flying high, and that's when I just took a deep breath and recognized wow, we are so fortunate here in the Cayman Islands, and to have
we are. I wouldn't want to be from anywhere else on planet Earth.
Nowhere else, and then to have that vocalist, Mr. Nicholson, just give that rendition with such pride too. It was remarkable, and all the other special items that were presented today, it was really special to see that.
Very special.
We see now the march off of the parade. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Band is playing in the background. The detachment of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, also the Cayman Islands Fire Service, the Cayman Islands Prison Service, Her Majesty Cayman Islands Prison Service, detachment of the Girls Brigade Cayman Islands, also Cayman Islands Cadet Corps, and the Cayman Islands Conference Pathfinders.
And of course, once they leave, then it's going to be time for everyone on the platform to depart, which includes our MLAs, our elected officials. They will then depart after the contingents of officers leave.
So as Susan mentioned, the celebrations are not over. There is much more to see and enjoy and take in, as there are going to be a lot of celebrations now around the Cayman Islands Georgetown Library, cultural entertainment and refreshments, and I believe there's also a museum or a display of some historic exhibits. Thank you, that will be able to remind us a little bit more of our heritage. So there's a lot to see, a lot to take in, a lot to enjoy this afternoon.
And that's going to be taking place in Constitutional Hall.
In Constitutional Hall.
And at the Georgetown Library.
Yes.
Yeah. So refreshments for everyone. I think they'll be able to taste, like you said, great Caymanian food.
I just want cassava cake.
Might have to wait in a very long line for that, but it's ladies, it's been awesome.
It's been awesome
teaming up with you guys and doing this, and hopefully we'll do it again next year and better.
Absolutely. So I believe now we're hearing the platform party has departed. So ladies, let's just relax a little bit more and let's talk about what happened for the 2020 National Heroes Day celebrations. Let's just kind of give some highlights as to what took place this year.
Well, it all started with the blowing, the arrival of all of the officials, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, as well as His Excellency the Governor. And our Master of Ceremonies today was Mrs. Gloria McPhail-Nixon. She's the Chief Officer for the portfolio of the Civil Service, which falls under the Deputy Governor. And then we went on to hear the blowing of the conch by Mr. Deal
Conchel,
Ebanks,
yes.
the conch shell, and that was the official opening of National Heroes Day celebrations.
All right, and then we ran into a few special items.
Yes.
And then, of course, now we're celebrating the pioneers of the first written constitution. So we had some highlights there presented by our counselors and ministry officials, and presentation and recognition of the first 4 women to stand in a general election, 1959.
And then I think they had a opening prayer by Brother Robert Ebanks, and there was a flag procession with the school children and waving flags, and everybody enjoyed that. And then, of course, we had the welcome address by Mr. Alfonso Wright. He's the executive chairman, Celebrate Cayman. And then that was followed by opening remarks by the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, JP, MLA, Minister for Health, Environment, and Culture and Housing. Of course, the keynote address was by the Honorable Premier, Alden McLaughlin, MBE, JP, MLA. And then there was a special item that I truly enjoyed.
So did I.
Yes, by the Edna Moyle Primary School quadrille dancers. And they were just doing their quadrille dancing. It was
beautiful.
sight to see.
Yes, and then we have some interviews lined up for you guys to catch up with a few individuals. We want to go quickly along. We also celebrated the pioneers of the first written constitution and the presentation of awards by the vestrymen and justices of the peace. That was also really interesting to see the representatives of the family of the individuals that were recognized here and present. And then, of course, the National Heroes commemorative and unveiling of busts.
Yes, the 5
That
busts,
was-
the
that
5
was
of
something.
our 9 heroes.
Yes, again, Honorable Sybil McLaughlin, Honorable Desmond Watler, Honorable Sybil Joyce Hilton, Honorable Roy Edison McTaggart, and Honorable Thomas William Farrington. Those are the individuals recognized with the unveiling of the busts. And then, of course, the laying of the wreaths, and in remembrance of our national heroes.
Of course, were all made from Cayman. All things Caymanian, from the shells on the beach to the silver thatch, which is our national tree.
Our national tree. And then, of course, the commemorative banknotes, guys. The issuance of the new $1 banknote that commemorates the 60th anniversary of the first written constitution of the Cayman Islands. That was announced by Premier Honorable Alden McLaughlin today. So that was amazing. I gotta ask though, your one highlight for the 2020 celebrations. What did you enjoy most?
I believe the unveiling of the bus.
Yes.
There were 5 of the national heroes. The
yes.
other 4 will be memorialized in the 2021 National Heroes Day. So that was a good sight to see. And now we can take pictures as well.
Yes, and Donna, for you?
Awesome. There were a number of things, but I think the one thing that really, really stands out to me were just performances by the kids in all aspects, from bringing out the little ones to the quadrille dancers, to everything to do with the kids and how they were able to be a part of an adult, and making their mark at a young age. I think that's what really stood out for me. So.
And definitely for me, obviously, the National Heroes commemoration and unveiling of the busts, and as well as the school children, the Edna Moyle Primary School kids doing that quadrille dance. It was remarkable to see how our history and culture is on full display with these kids. So that's amazing. So
it's a holiday Monday in the Cayman Islands. We want everybody to enjoy the remainder of this holiday Monday.
Yeah. And Radio Cayman is going to continue with some interviews by some of the people who were here today, representing their families and so on and so forth. But we'd like to thank you all and all of our viewers here on CIG TV for joining us. And we will see you back here again next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.